This video is sponsored by Brilliant. Hey, Marcus House with you here, and there is certainly no shortage of news and updates in the space industry since the last video. It has been another interesting week with SpaceX's Starship prototype developments, with the SN4 breathing fire again, with both a pre-burner test and a static fire leading up shortly to the upcoming 150-meter flight. The SN5 and SN6 are both being stacked together in the high bay, which is a first to see, so we'll dive right into that. We had the amazing X-37B launch on the Atlas V with a bunch of new experiments, the incredible upcoming Crew Dragon mission which will fly astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley is now potentially only days away, assuming no delays. This is of course the first flight with crew from the United States for almost a decade. This is going to be a huge week.
Coming down the ladder now.
Now, due to bad weather impacting launch activities this week and slowing the pace down a bit in Boca Chica, we still had some activity around the testing of SN4 with a few delays at times as well. We saw a pre-burner test followed by 2 delayed static fire attempts, and a nice surprise was in store as well with some RCS thrust testing as seen here at the base of the SN4. And also here a great close-up of the assembly courtesy of Boca Chica Gal. Now midweek we finally saw another static fire of Raptor SN20 which lasted around 6 seconds, but there was an anomaly immediately after the test firing. The cause is still unknown, but as you may recall, Starhopper had a similar situation at one stage. As Elon said at the time, the big advantage about the higher strength stainless steel is that it's not bothered by a little extra heat. What we believe fueled the fire was a bunch of insulation covering the pipes and wiring based on the thick black smoke that we can see here. There was a bit of fire damage around these areas here and doesn't seem to be anything serious, but it has created some challenges to get back to work on it seems. We can see that the SpaceX team have again been able to move back in and had the other day set up some quite serious looking fans here. If there are residual toxic gases involved in a confined workspace here, plus the intense smells from all of the burned insulation material, that is not great for anyone that will be working up under here. Also, it could be that with a great deal of water splashed around at the time to extinguish the flames, there may have been some parts underneath the skirt here that needed some drying out, especially around the complex areas of the Raptor engine. Since that anomaly, we can see that they've taken away the damaged insulation from around the stand, so progress will ramp back up again. SpaceX may even be evolving some thoughts around the way this insulation is applied in future. Let me know what you think in the comments. Sadly, this saw the potential hop date slip away as the notice to airmen submitted here show the latest dates spanning from May 22nd through to June 5. We're just going to have to hold on a little bit more, folks, for that incredible moment, so stay tuned. During the week, Mary spotted some interesting components delivered here as well. These COPVs we assume will likely be utilised for the SN5 and 6 fairly soon. Also spotted was the new downcomer here, which must be for the SN6, likely to be more fully stacked soon. The purpose of this massive tube, of course, is to feed the liquid methane from the upper tank down to the Raptor engines through the liquid oxygen tank. A header tank and the bulkhead from the bottom of the liquid methane tank fits on top of this. A massive thank you to Mary and NASA Spaceflight as always for the incredible footage here. Make sure you are subscribed to access that content as soon as it drops. Production continued as well with ring segments being shuffled around, and there is now one less nose cone as we see here with the process of it being dismantled. Obviously there have been far too many improvements to the newer nose cones, and this older one was just not up to the latest standard. There was a surprise in store as well with one of the nose cones rolling out with integrated reaction control thrusters. Very nice indeed, and thanks to Cooper Heim for this nice close-up here. Now once SN5 receives its nose cone, this will be the first time we've seen a full stack since the Mark 1 at the presentation evening last year. Now speaking of that, I'm wondering just how much longer we will see the old nose cone from that structure sitting here on site. Is SpaceX keeping this around simply to reuse some parts from the aero surfaces or even from the nose cone itself? Let me know what you think. So yes, the presentation last year sure was an inspiring sight to see. And fast forward that short time to now, and SpaceX have achieved so much in a very condensed space of time. The SN6 ring assembly assembly is moving along nicely as well. Just look at how nice and clean those welds are. The build quality here just keeps getting better, and that is SpaceX through and through. As always, Raphael has been tweeting out his regular updates, providing a best guess as to the sections of Starships we see all over the construction site. Firstly, the SN5 here. I mean, this vessel now really just needs to have the fairing put together at this point. The main liquid oxygen and methane tanks are continuing to have that more intricate work done on it. At this stage, we don't believe there will be fins on this version, as we suspect this will be flight tested to higher altitudes than the SN4, but likely nowhere near that 20-kilometre mark. The nose cone here should get stacked soon to the ring stack we see here. More to talk about with the SN6 though. We believe we can spot most of the sections needed now for the liquid methane and liquid oxygen tank sections. Not real certain at this point which nose cone may belong to this vessel at this stage, as there has been so much nose cone work going on during the week. We know that there is another being worked on, but no clear images of that one yet. We'll have a clearer idea on that soon. As mentioned, the downcomer will likely be used in the SN6 here as well when the rest of the tank is stacked together. Nice work as always, Raphael. Highly recommend following Raf there on Twitter. So with focus being shifted slightly due to the weather delays this week, Demo 2 launch preparations continue, so let's see what's been happening in the lead up to this fantastic milestone, the first crewed Dragon launch. So SpaceX's Crew Dragon vehicle is still scheduled in for May the 27th, only days away now from this huge milestone. Early in the week, NASA released this video showing the Crew Dragon being moved to the hangar in preparation for integration with the Falcon 9 booster. Beautiful night footage here showing elements of the Dragon all covered up with protective materials. Now they do all this of course to ensure that no materials can get into the reaction control system thrusters, which are the Draco engines we see here normally. The last thing anyone wants is to be removing bird nests and insects from these systems just before launch. Some great pictures shared here inside the hangar. Now later in the week we also saw Crew Dragon roll out to Launch Pad 39A in preparation for that static fire test. Of course, that static fire has already occurred now, as we spotted here. NASA confirmed shortly after that the flight readiness review has concluded. NASA's SpaceX Crew Dragon mission is cleared to proceed towards liftoff. Now we are counting down to that launch day. Just incredible to see all of this rolling out, and just to think that this will be docking to the International Space Station with Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley in this groundbreaking mission for SpaceX over this coming week is just amazing. No other previous mission has been this important for them. It is the first time SpaceX will have humans on board a flight. This is a whole new ballgame, and along with it being the first crew on board a SpaceX vessel, it will also be the first time crew will have flown from the United States since the last flight of the Space Shuttle in 2011. That is all going to change in a matter of days now, and everybody is getting super excited. To help celebrate this launch, NASA announced quite a while back now that the old worm logo here will make a comeback, which has been shown repeatedly in this image here of the Falcon 9 booster. NASA this week though tweeted out some interesting material talking about the history of the worm. It's amazing how much the worm logo was used on many historic missions. What is interesting to me though, as outlined in this video, was that the term worm originally came from a newspaper in Florida and was intended to be a derogatory term. Then over the years that name stuck and slowly transitioned instead into the term of endearment that it is now. Fast forward and it was a huge hit, especially with younger fans of spaceflight, and you can see why. It's certainly less corporate and brings back an element of fun. For me personally, it has that quite nostalgic feel to it as well, and I'm really thrilled that NASA decided to bring it back again, especially for this groundbreaking mission. So yes, it all comes down to this, a critical mission for SpaceX and NASA to launch crew from the USA once again, and the mission is going to roll out similar to what we witnessed with the Crew Dragon Demo 1 mission last year. This incredible work by Infographic News here on Twitter just blows my mind, and a huge thanks to Tony for supplying this content for my video here. Many other amazing infographics here as well, so certainly follow on Twitter to check out this unreal work. So yes, we're going to see a launch from Launch Complex 39A in Florida with the Crew Dragon mounted on top of the Falcon 9. This beast of course has the 8 Super Draco engines in case an in-flight abort or even a pad abort is ever necessary. This can easily pull the crew away from a failing booster if such a thing ever occurs, as was demonstrated in the in-flight abort test earlier in the year. The fins, which are now included on the trunk along with solar panels, are there of course for aerodynamic stability. The trunk also of course can hold extra cargo, and it has the solar arrays mounted mounted on it during the mission. As the first stage booster is close to empty, we'll see the main engine cut off. The second stage will separate and fire up, leaving the Falcon 9 to flip around and get ready to re-enter the atmosphere. It will then extend out those incredible grid fins used to steer and continually slow the booster down as it heads towards the drone ship, which for this mission is named Of Course I Still Love You. It will then do an entry burn to slow down just enough to re-enter without being damaged by the intense speeds and aerodynamic stress. Then that final landing burn to allow the Falcon 9 booster to touch down safely on the drone ship to be returned and reused for another flight. Meanwhile, the second stage will have finished its burn to place the Crew Dragon along with Bob and Doug into the designated orbit. The Crew Dragon will separate and head on its way to rendezvous with the International Space Station using its own Draco thrusters to control the approach. When close to the station, the nose cone will open up to allow the vehicle to dock autonomously, just as we witnessed last year with the uncrewed Demo 1 mission. After visiting the station for a currently unknown amount of time, Bob and Doug will return to Earth. They'll re-enter the Dragon, undock and do a series of burns to put them on approach to enter the atmosphere. The trunk will be discarded to burn up, and the Crew Dragon will re-enter the atmosphere with the heat shield protecting the vessel and crew while it rapidly reduces velocity. Once it's moving slow enough and has dropped down to the point where the parachutes can be deployed, the chutes will begin popping out, first with the drogue chutes and then the mains as we see here. The Crew Dragon, along with our heroes Bob and Doug, will splash down gently into the ocean to be retrieved by the recovery ship. And there we go, that will be mission accomplished. Now again, a huge thank you to Tony for supplying me with these amazing graphics. Please do follow and support Tony on Twitter, just incredible work there, mate. Well done. Now, if you want to know more about Crew Dragon, I talk more in depth about the first Demo 1 mission in this video. While you're here, of course, please do consider subscribing. There's loads more news coming with Starship and Starlink as well. I'd love to share all that with you. A huge thank you to everyone as well. Almost 150,000 subscribers already, and it was really only a few months ago I passed 100,000, so thank you so much for your support. It really does mean a huge amount. Now we just need to talk a little about the USSF-7 mission, which of course carried the amazing little X-37B test vehicle to orbit. This was a launch by ULA on May 17th, and sending up this payload was an Atlas V rocket from Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but real quick, this video is sponsored by Brilliant, who have been amazing supporters of my channel. In these current times, you may be on the lookout for online math and science resources, and whether you're a student looking to advance ahead, a professional learning new skills, or someone who just wants to use this time to understand the world better, you should check out the awesome content with Brilliant. Now, quantum computing gets a lot of hype, and it's predicted by many to have the potential to upend everything from code breaking to drug development to machine learning. If you're curious about these claims and want to see what the deal is, there is a fantastic course here which will allow you to grasp what quantum computing actually is and how it works. It's super interesting to understand how to exploit the laws of quantum mechanics to compute in this way, and with these interactive examples you'll find your way around the world of quantum information, have experimented hands-on with the ins and outs of quantum circuits, and maybe have even written your first lines of quantum code. If you're naturally curious and want to build your problem-solving skills, then get Brilliant Premium to learn something new every day. Brilliant's thought-provoking math, science and computer science content helps guide you to mastery by taking complex concepts and breaking them up into bite-sized, understandable chunks. Thank you very much to Brilliant for their support in this channel, and if you would like to help support me and would like to give it a try, go to brilliant.org/MarcusHouse. The first 200 people will get 20% off for the first year of Brilliant Premium. The link is in the description below. So yes, this amazing little X-37B orbital test vehicle I just love. It is reusable, which is always great, as that is the way the industry has been pushed now, with SpaceX leading that trend. In fact, the previous OTV-5 mission was launched in September 2017 by SpaceX's Falcon 9, so in that case the entire system was much more reusable. The X-37B is also kind of like one of my favourite historical vehicle designs, the X-20 Dinosaur, which which was sadly cancelled just after the spacecraft construction had begun way back in 1963. I won't go into all that right now, but I just love these small space plane designs. So yes, the X-37B vehicle was launched by United Launch Alliance with the Atlas V, and this was the 501 configuration, which tells us that this was the 5.4 meter fairing used to cover the payload, which is the largest option available for the Atlas V. 0 solid rocket boosters were attached this time, so that extra thrust off the pad wasn't needed in this mission. And the third digit, the number 1, tells us that there was a single RL-10A engine on the Centaur stage. Now, there isn't a lot of footage and information published about this OTV vehicle itself for this mission, but we have talked a bit about this back when the OTV-5 mission landed in October 2019, having spent around 780 days in orbit, and of course that was a long duration uncrewed mission. This latest launch, of course, was for the OTV-6 vessel as part of the US Air Force and the US Space Force joint mission. The purpose was described as a mission to test a number of experiments provided by NASA, the USAF and the US Naval Research Lab. NASA in particular had 2 experiments on board designed to provide more insight into microgravity and radiation effects on a number of materials, some at least that are organic, such as seed samples. Now, there are other experiments as well, such as the solar power experiment by the US Naval Research Lab. Then there is a small Falcon Sat 8 satellite on board as well, so fully loaded with experiments. Some beautiful shots here from Greg Scott, who was, as always, putting in the hard yards, suffering through some rough weather to get these pictures. Thanks very much, Greg. If you're not already following there, just hit up Greg Scott Photo on Twitter and you can soon change that. Awesome work there as always, mate. Now, shortly after the launch, General Jay Raymond here, who is the Chief of Space Operations for the US Space Force and the Commander of US Space Command, tweeted announcing mission accomplished on the successful launch, adding that the X-37B mission is a perfect example of why America continues to be the leader in space. And there is certainly no doubt of that. With all the incredible technology and development right now, it's going to be amazing to see where things are in a few years' time. Now, if you've enjoyed what we've talked about here so far, consider taking a second to tap that like button. That just helps tell YouTube that you value the content, so it's recommended more often, which of course really helps me out as well. And just quickly, a huge thank you to my amazing patrons here. You are all quite literally turning this dream of mine of creating this content from a hobby into something much bigger. If you like what I do and would like to join our awesome patrons here, head to patreon.com/MarcusHouse. You can interact with me more directly via the included roles in Discord. You can check out some exclusive patron-only content, and you can also have your name listed right here like these other amazing people. I'm just so grateful and amazed by all of you supporting me every month. It is certainly most appreciated. Thank you very much. Of course, I couldn't do this without the amazing quality control squad listed here. A massive thank you to every one of you. You're helping me research and proof the material for these videos in your own time just because you love the topics and how I'm presenting them. Thank you all very seriously. You've been supporting me here now for a long time, and you make this hobby even more incredible every week. It means a huge amount. In the title in the bottom left today, of course, we have my video last week talking about the upcoming Mars 2020 mission, along with Starship and Crew Dragon updates. In the top right is my latest video, and in the bottom right, content that YouTube has selected from my channel just for you. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.